Hello, everyone, and welcome to this introductory video to what I think is block party number 163, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you, Marco. And we'll also be doing episode 8 tomorrow of the Start is Near podcast. The start of what? The start of humanity coming together in, I would say, the most beautiful and logical way that I can imagine, that we can imagine, speaking for all of us, and feel free to jump in anytime, everyone, with your own thoughts, which is something that we call collective human superintelligence, CHSI, which, if you were to see it printed out, could be pronounced CHISI, right? Collective human superintelligence. And what we mean by that is really something that we've been talking about for quite some time. But now with rock stars like Mike in our presence and others who've joined us lately, things are really coming into focus. And the gist of it is a vast, I was going to say network of conversations, but it's more of a universe of conversations. Because to say network implies a certain degree of connectivity and almost like marching in unison in a sense, whereas universe is kind of more open. You can have a galaxy over here doing its thing, another galaxy over there doing its thing, another star system over here doing its thing. And so
What do we say, Jamin? The constellation of conversations or something?
but it's more than a constellation. It's constellations, plural, right?
Right, right.
So you can have all kinds of different clusters of conversations, which I would imagine, and since we're imagining this into existence, right? It's something that doesn't quite exist in its fully fledged form yet. In a sense, it's the proto version of it already exists, which is the universe of human conversations. There's 8 billion of us, a pretty significant number. And we're all basically in conversation, all the time, unless somebody's like reading a book or something or listening to the radio. But even if they're listening to the radio, I would argue that they're participating in that conversation, not as a speaker, but as a listener. You see what I'm saying? We humans, we live in a universe of conversations. And now that we have these technologies where any group of us, I mean, at this present moment, we've got a Mexican, 2 Canadians, a couple of Michiganders, and a gringo, all in conversation together, right? How amazing is that? So we can connect from all around the world, and any combination of us can,
Countries and continents, right?
countries, continents, islands, etc., right? So we're in this, brave new world of capability of communication, hyperlinked communication. And what's really exciting about that is that, how, like, there used to be this television program back in the 80s called Connections, and there was this Englishman named Burke who would host it, and he would kind of trace through history how, like, one idea or person with part of an idea connected with another person and another part of an idea, and boom, the sparks flew and something really amazing was invented. And then that, made possible other connections and other inventions, and, away we go. And now here we are freaking video conferencing with each other in real time all around the world. And so the connections that are made possible are basically infinite and unbounded, at least in the human realm. And then, throw in the sciences and whatnot, and those who have deep connections with nature, and those form bridges with the rest of nature. And so basically you have all of life on Earth able to connect with each other in this, emergent universe of conversations. Universe means, I guess the Latin of that means like one verse, one thing And so our vision, our dream is really that the universe of human conversations.
Can I raise my hand on that,
Please,
Jamin, when you're ready?
please.
Yeah.
Go.
I'm gonna give it right back to you, but it's like a choir, right?
Well, it's
It's
really
like
interesting.
bringing the choir together.
It's really interesting you should say that, because one of the memes that we came up with is decorous, like the word decorous, but spelled. I'll put it in the chat. Chorus. In fact, I'll screen share it so those who are watching can see. But it stands for decentralized chorus. Now, when you think of a chorus, you immediately default to thinking about it as a centralized thing. There's a conductor and everyone's kind of singing in unison and all that. So what on earth would be a decentralized chorus? So I'll just screen share here what I'm talking about. Chorus, a decentralized chorus. But I love the fact that it has the same pronunciation as the word decorous, which means kind of like proper or fitting. Well, guess what? It is proper and fitting that we all come together. I mean, here we are, we're this emergent caretaker species, and like a bunch of sugar high 5-year-olds just stomping all over the place and drawing on walls with crayons and making a big mess. That's kind of characterized the last 10 or 12,000 years of human existence, right? And that's not proper and it's not fitting. So it's time for, Mama Jimena to come in with the ruler and smack us on the back of the hand and say, look, you guys, it's time for it's time for the divine feminine. And I guess
Not my style at all. You
all
know
right,
that.
well then I'll use Christopher with his long hair as a proxy for the divine feminine coming in and whipping us into shape and saying, look, it's time for us to be proper and fitting with and embrace our noblesse oblige, right? In the sense that we have so much capability and power in our hands, but we've been using it in insanely destructive ways. And yes, a lot of creativity and art and innovation has emerged throughout this pandemonium, but let me not go down that path too much farther, but really focus on the positive and say, look, it's time for us to come together and put our house in order as a species, as humanity, so that we can be the caretaker species that we are destined to be, right? We're not destined to go.
That doesn't even need like religious connotations either, right, Jamin? Like we've talked about this in terms of complexity and science and so on and so forth, right? Like it just seems axiomatic. It seems axiomatic. It's not obvious, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so for me, all this can be encapsulated in a new emergent myth, right? And a myth, a new story for humanity, of humanity coming together.
Right. What's the story do we want to tell ourselves?
Exactly. And I'm gonna, if anyone wants to talk, just jump in, right? Because I can talk and talk and talk, but I'm not gonna. So literally just raise your hand or just literally just jump in. Okay, so let's.
Well, we were already doing this, but Christopher, I haven't actually like really met you quite like this before. What's your position on all this? What's your advantage? What's your blind elephant perspective? If you want to share, you don't have to, my friend, but go ahead if you want.
Holy cow, where to start? Jesus.
Well, I had asked earlier, what was your first moment where you kind of interrogated or engaged this stuff?
Yeah, like I, for myself, it's like you met at many moments. I mean, I met everybody here July of 2020, at the end of the harmonic convergence. global unity really feels like the most important thing to live for. Like it's really hard to get excited about a lot of other things right now. I kind of feel like they've run their course in my life, and the things that really matter to me keep coming back to that pathway in many different shapes and forms. So it's really hard to trace exactly where it is because it keeps yelling at me from all sorts of different directions in my life. You know, whether it's um, my interactions with the people I know, or knowledge about where we are right now cosmologically, to reports about potential life from the cosmos visiting us. It's I feel like I'm bombarded by it, so it's hard for me to trace. But yeah, I'm gonna have to think more on that, Mike. Thanks for the question, man.
No, thank you for the answer, or at least the perspective. I appreciate that so much. Not that there's like I've stopped trying to use like right and wrong. I like maybe precise or accuracy or whatever it is. But no, thank you so much, Christopher. Yeah, it's really. I know I'm kind of derailing this, Jamin, so bring me back at any time. But it is very interesting to think about how especially the Canadian perspective here. I was on a space the other day that the Perimeter Institute came up. We have the University of Waterloo, obviously. They have a whole quantum place there and stuff, and so on and so forth. As I said, like one of my big jams is education and how we're doing a very clear disservice to the cohort coming up behind us. All these kids, under the westernized, educated, what is it, the weird acronym or whatever? Westernized, educated, industrialized, rich and democratic, JK, grade 12, that kind of stuff, right? Like that, like especially what's going on now, that just seems asinine, to be honest, if I can use that word or whatever, right? But yeah, you got me. Sorry, I can only help but laugh, right? Because it's we're I think everyone here, I can't speak for everyone here, but I'm gonna guess based on the conversations that I've had with Marco, with Jamin, that we were kind of like not the leftovers or anything, but like the forgotten children of our educational cohorts as we were coming through whatever system we came through. And if that doesn't ring true for anyone, that's please speak up. But I imagine that that's kind of we had to forge our own path, and there's so many things that like you talked about convergence, Christopher. Like that's a perfect thing to kind of put in people's path just to wake them up. Or I don't even like that word. I don't like those lexicons either. But the idea is that um, there's so much more to learn, and we can do so with so much more honesty and authenticity. And Chizzy Jamin, I don't know. Please take it from me. I feel like I'm running. Yeah.
No. Actually, Christopher's answer was just very simple and very profound. In fact, I was sitting here, caring for my mom. I'm in my mom's hospital room right now, and just asking myself, beyond caring for my mom, what am I doing? And I thought about certain things I could be doing, taking care of business here and there and whatnot. But I thought, no, what I really need to be doing right now is getting in conversation with all of you and moving the ball forward towards humanity coming together. Like Christopher said beautifully, there's really nothing, everything else has run its course. Hoarding, give me a break, right? It's just a big ego trip. Me, I've got more stuff, but in the pursuit of accumulation of stuff, we're killing our planet, right? And so it's about humanity coming together, and like I mentioned a few minutes ago, doing the right thing. What is the right thing? Coming together, making sure everyone is fed. If we're going to be team humanity, we need to make sure everyone is taken care of, that all of our sisters and brothers are well nourished.
This is where we have to incorporate like Maslow and stuff and so on and so forth, right? Like, yeah, the hierarchy of needs. No, you got me, James. Just carry on. I'm just trying to throw another
Yeah.
singing there. Oh, here's the husky, by the way. Well, he's not blurred, but whatever. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So, you know, that's where we're at. And the fact that so many of us have now realized that everything else has run its course and this is what there is to do is really, it's a beautiful moment that we've reached right now, because now we know what we need to do. And all there is to do is do it, right? And it seems obvious to me and to us, I'll speak for all of us, feel free to disagree or tweak it or state your own version of your truth or our truth. But ultimately it needs to become our truth, right? This is so important. We cannot be divided on this. We need to be a united humanity saying, look, we need to come together. It's just like if this were 50,000 years ago and we were a tribe of 120 of us or something, right? And we all looked like Christopher with like long hair and beards and stuff like that. You know, we would and we were in some sort of a crisis. Naturally, we would all come together around the campfire. You know, we'd try to keep our Goldilocks of hair outside the flames and all that, lest we go, oh. But, you know, we'd all come together around the campfire and we'd say, okay, let's talk about this. Let's figure this out, right? And that's what there is to do right now. But in this present moment with 8 billion of us, there used to be 8 million of us. Now there's 1,000 times more. And, you know, we're living this crazy comet-like existence in the sense that we're just burning up as we enter this atmosphere of this seemingly terminal phase. We need to come together right now and figure this out. So instead of one campfire for a tribe of 120, it's more like, I don't know, what do you like? Tens of millions of conversations in this universe of conversations. Why tens of millions? Because we need, you know, first of all, millions of local conversations figuring out the local stuff, but we need planetary level conversations to figure out, for example, reversing planetary overheating. We're burning up. We're literally like a comet burning up. And we need to stop that overheating and reverse it. We need to stop the destruction of the biosphere and reverse it. We need to stop the separation of humanity that says, you know, if you want to eat and if you want shelter, you need money. And if you want money, you need to go chop down the last mahogany tree and, you know, squash the last pollinator in order to get the last drop of honey that you can sell on the market. Anyway, I'm kind of going off about the negative again. Let me stop that. But what we need to do is we need to come together in this universe of conversations where together collectively as a giant planetary brain, we figure it all out from the local all the way to the planetary. Can we figure it out? Of course we can. We're a bunch of suppressed geniuses. We've been taught to suppress our genius. We've been taught to forget about utopia, focus on the bottom line, and hoard. So we need like a collective, at the level of the entire species, transformation from this old modality of hoarding and separation to this new modality.
Can I raise my hand on that one, Jim?
Of course, please.
Yeah. So this is, you know, we talk about this often, but how can we facilitate that to person, you know, just whoever it is, like how you know, what are the strategies that we can, because this conversation is amazing and we can have this and we do this dance all the time, but once we have this conversation, how can we facilitate others having the understanding of this? Because, and I know we make this joke all the time, but Chizzy, you know, is probably an axiomatic result to these conversations. We just kind of have to figure out, you know, the nuts and bolts, I suppose.
Yeah, and you and I and Marco and Michael have spent a lot of time talking about this in the last several weeks. And we want to invite everyone to this conversation. And what we've been, I think the kind of the conclusion that we've come to is, rather than try to go out and try to recruit people to this conversation, there is a preliminary task, which is to first recognize that there are, countless conversations already happening that simply need to come together, right? And how do we facilitate them coming together? Well, how did the internet come together? There were phases and of the internet coming together, but one crucial phase that I like to point to is when Google emerged with some brilliant and very simple algorithms that created a search engine, which for me kind of brought the internet together in a new way, because here we are all wanting to find certain things. Along comes Google, and with the simplicity of just typing in what you're looking for in words, in text, boom, it said, look, here's all the pages on the internet that map to what you're looking for. Just go back to that magic moment. Forget for a moment how corrupted the internet has become between money, capitalism, fake news, and all kinds of crap like that. Just think for a moment of, back in the late 90s, wherever you were sitting when you first heard about Google and you started typing stuff in and seeing. So just as Google helped bring all that together, not by recruiting them and saying, hey, come together, but simply helping people find them. You see how magical that was? I think my mom agrees. That's right, Mom. And so we're at a similar moment with respect to conversations. All these conversations are happening all over the place. We need to create the Google of conversations. And with that, I pass the feather.
I'm going to try and yield to someone else here.
Yeah, I know it's interesting. We have been tending to look, in recent years at the growing population as a problem, where at this point, when you think about collective human superintelligence, the number of people actually we can look at it as more of a blessing at this point, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and we have plenty of people to do the work. We just need to organize and pick our poison, pick our cure, however you want to look at it. Pick our passion.
Teams and teams, right, Marco?
Exactly. Yeah. Find your passion, find the people that are passionate about it with you, and work on that. Share knowledge into the collective intelligence, and we can bring the earth, back to the garden that it's intended to be. So that realization that we've had now, for 4 years together, the people in this room, and longer separately, have been working towards, solving the problems that are so major right now, like global heating and starvation, when there's plenty of food to go around. All these things can be managed because we have plenty of people to do it, and not everybody wants to do the same thing. So all we need now is just a little organization, a little bit of recognizing the other, and that we're each part of the whole, and that whatever we do to benefit the whole benefits, all of us.
I think I've told you this story before, Marco, but it maybe behooves me to say it on the recording. But I have a really good friend who one of my cohort from elementary school, even, actually, but he just wants to drive, right? He drives every single kind of transportation. He's driven. He actually works in the like whatever in Toronto and in Canada here, or whatever. But he's driven like every vehicle that there is to drive, and like if all of this changed tomorrow, he would still just want to drive.
Yep. Just like there's people that want to garden and people that want to tinker and people that want to, uh,
It's how we
look at,
reorganize those people, right? It's how we
yeah,
reorganize. Sorry, you got it, Marco.
yeah. It's that. It's now we've got the numbers, and we've been shown through like the pandemic and the shutdown that a lot of the work we do isn't even necessary, that we're ready for a new paradigm. We're ready to do improve humanity because there's no need for anybody to do dangerous or repetitive jobs. There's no reason for anybody to do anything they don't enjoy doing. All the necessary things we can automate, and literally we are on the verge of being the best we can be, and work at that. That's all we have to work at anymore. All the real problems we can are solved except for greed. Greed is the one thing that's still messing up the whole works. War and fighting for this resource and that resource.
Or avarice, right, Marco?
True, true.
No, sorry, I'm just throwing it in there. Keep going. You're
Yeah,
on a
no,
roll.
no. That's I'm like right at where I'll just start to ramble now and repeat myself. So I'm complete and I pass the talking feather.
Anyone else want to jump in there?
I like your question there, Mike. What are the nuts and bolts? Like, how do you actually create the mechanics for the networking of all the different conversations? I don't know.
So part of my background, I went to Lakehead. That's my alma mater, up Thunder Bay. And Dr. Strink was my second supervisor. We studied complex adaptive systems for a number of years. And we did interdisciplinary context where we had like seminar classes with professors and their students and like mentors and mentees and stuff, whatever. And we like found a closet in one of the university classrooms where we like talked like highly esoteric stuff on that level. But one of my projects, which I need to dig out of a hard drive for Jamin and Marco and also people in our cohort currently, was so C.S. Halling and Lance Gunderson. Well, C.S. Halling's Canadian, I believe, but C.S. Halling and Lance Gunderson wrote a book called Panarchy. And it has to do with complex adaptive systems and how they scale and so on and so forth. And my project for whatever 4 months or a year or whatever it was there, but I worked with Dr. Strength for a long time. She was one of C.S. Halling's mentees, and personal agency is possible. And I'm glad this is recorded actually, because I don't think I've ever put that so concisely as that. I mean, maybe Dr. Strength would raise my mark on my project there or whatever, but yeah, so we're talking about how we can individually kind of nudge these very complex surf, right? Nudge the waves or something, right? I think you've got me, Christopher, but yeah, please take it from me. I feel like I'm fumbling now.
Not at all, man. No, that's awesome. So you guys actually systems design engineering is your background.
One of many hats, but something like that. Yeah, I came at it from psychology and philosophy, but she was the chair of psychology while I was going through that cohort. Yeah, and then we worked with like mathematicians and biologists and people from, again, English majors, anyone who wanted to kind of show up. But she literally like begged the administration to like, oh, I just wanted a classroom and And yeah, everyone had to present something over the course of 8 months, and that was one of those things. Yeah, but organize. So yeah, fundamentally, it's just about Jamin was talking about before there or whatever, and Marco was just saying as well. Like, how do we take all these highly like very skilled high performers and then put them together in a purposeful and fulfilling way, and if I mean even if it's just the five of us right now or the six of us, sorry, even if it's just that, if that's possible, I mean the whole system, like I mean, I want to bring up Mark, right, Jamin, but like the whole system is basically compromised. And I don't think I like to believe that it wasn't on purpose. If it was on purpose, that sucks. But when you start asking these questions, it seems to be like ignorance has led us here in terms of how we have this. I don't know. Uh, well, there's a book called The Curiosity of School by Xander Sherman, I believe it is called. He was an autodidact out of Toronto who just like wrote the same kind of book that we're talking about. But like the way that the whole education system is set up is just seems ridiculous, especially when we have these conversations. And I can ask everyone here, and I love to actually, Christopher and please answer this. But like, what are 5 things you think should be taught in school that aren't taught? Like right now, right? And at what age do you think they should be taught?
Jesus, I can't get out of my head. I wanted to say when you mentioned death ed, I thought that was, I never thought of that, but that, I mean, that there's a
Right?
theme there, and it makes me think maybe the other four should be equivalent topics that are, we're scared that the adults in the room are scared of those topics themselves. They don't have the answers, or
Well,
they're too
that's
scared
because we're
about.
dealing with traumatized adults too, right, Christopher? But you've got this. Please carry on. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking of that. Yeah, there's all sorts of different reasons why. It's interesting because Jimena brought up the other night that she's met individuals who are like 4 years old, and they're like basically like little yogis. They're like they're totally at peace with where they're at. They're on a trajectory to transcend, and um, they're saying things that floor the adults in the room. So I really liked your comment about the age where it's like they can handle it. I mean, who knows, right? Like it's just the idea. I think is
We
a really
limit
important.
them, right? We limit them because we're scared, maybe, or wherever we're at. And I'm just putting myself out there as well, right? But we limit them. We put limitations or constraints. You got me. Sorry.
No, totally. That's what Jamin was saying earlier. The genius. So the four other things would probably I would look inward and say, what else are we? What are we denying the youth? I'd have to think on that. But anyway, yeah.
You don't have to have an easy answer now, and if you want to speak on it, go ahead, young lady. No, go ahead. I don't know if you're muted or not. Please go ahead.
I think people um is not only traumatized nowadays, they're a little bit acting like zombies because the energy. Oh, that's cute. The energy is super strong and it can potentialize whatever you are decreting and whatever you are kind of messed in and thinking about. So either anguish or ambition or whatever human condition you are into right now, it really, really potentialized. So yeah, it's not only to be traumatized, it's that we need to be there for each other. Because
Potentialize is going on the whiteboard. Potentialize. That was amazing. Go on. Keep going. Yeah.
yeah, because if it's like in a group or a family or a tribe, when someone is disappointed about life, or when someone needs energy, the others take care of him, right? So if people doesn't start acting like that and realizing that the others are also immersed in this kind of traumatic experience and they need each other, it would be very hard to get out of the loop that we are into.
Right. There's virtuous cycles and vicious cycles. Yeah.
The energy of this year, like I've been studying astrology, and the energy of this year is like so strong that either you awake or you become a zombie and go with the flow in a wrong manner, like not understanding that everybody's going through a difficult stage and we need to hear each other and we need to support each other, and praying and meditating and doing meetings like this one, right? Parties that are not only about drinking or laughing, but about serious conversations in order to make people react about the things that really are worth it, to put it somehow. And I was trying to think like how to portray this in a big picture, because well, everybody here knows me very well, but
No,
you might don't know me
Keep going. Yeah.
very much. I want to pass the floor to someone else, but I just want to wrap up saying you something like the consciousness that the birds and the animals have about the others can be reproduced. I think that the collective consciousness, as we have practiced it, to say like in this kind of forums or with the groups that we are immersed in and that we are committed to, needs to be potentialized also. And we need to understand that there are roads, there are ways that the birds and the animals follow.
Well,
Like the
my
birds
interest
have
is in like
their own,
strategizing potentialization, right?
yeah, the birds,
Right? Yeah, you got me. Sorry.
the birds that, have you seen the groups of birds that dance together and they are not
Like
like,
starlings.
"Get
Yeah,
from
yeah,
me, like you're
yeah.
bothering me, your
Yeah,
wing is in my eye, get away."
I love my corvids. I respect my corvids. I promise you that. Like the ravens and the crows are out there.
Yeah, so, and they do these very beautiful figures in the sky and they are not bothering about someone being near to them, right? So we need to reproduce this. We kind of need to achieve a higher understanding and be there for the others when the others
It's
are.
really interesting that you bring up the birds. It's actually self-actualization, right? Like that is the word for it. Yeah, you got me. Yeah.
Yeah, and the collective consciousness, like we can prove that these birds have a formula and we can follow that same formula, but we have attachment with us. So that is like the main thing that we need to overcome. It's very hard, of course, because we are attached to our loved ones, to our pets, to our things, to many things, right? Property, private property. So the world needs a quantum leap, a really big quantum leap, many natural disasters in order to understand that people needs to be for each other. I don't know, many wars, many catastrophes, because that's the only way we would kind of destroy in order to build ourselves
You're
together.
talking about the forge, or like the smithy, like the blacksmith, right? The forge, like trial by fire.
I don't understand that,
No, so
but
like a blacksmith,
I
you
see.
know the analogy about a blacksmith where they hammer the sword over and over again, put it into fire and like, melt the,
Exactly.
yeah, right. Make, yes.
Phoenix figure.
But that's us.
Rebirth
I just
from
want to
the
say too,
ashes.
hold on, just for the recording, I want to say thank you so much because that was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, so to finish the idea, the Celtics were always telling that in order to be reborn, you need destruction. So basically, we need to destroy our former mindsets and our former ways of living in order to have a renewal, like of this new humanity that will come to birth. Yeah, that's it. Pass the floor to someone.
Do you drop the mic on that one now, right? Is that where you like sorry. Christopher, go ahead if you want, man.
Isn't there like an instant solution to this? Like something like a paradigm shift in a box, so I can just zip this open and put it in the nuker for 5 minutes? This sounds too Catholic. The straining and the world disasters. Do we really all have to, like, half of us have to die in order to get this to happen? I hope not. I mean, it's fashionable to say.
Ask the stray dogs, what do they believe about it?
Who are the stray dogs?
Oh, Jamin, go ahead, man. You raised your hand, please.
Ask Botticelli.
Yes to Botticelli. So here's the ready outside the box solution, which is, just imagine we take a university, any university of the thousands of universities in the world, take any one, and that has, hundreds or perhaps thousands of, classrooms, from very large auditoriums to just, tiny little rooms. And imagine that we ask the university, look, when we arrive Monday morning, instead of doing the usual, teaching classes and this and that and whatever, work in laboratories, imagine we put that all on pause for 1 week. And starting Monday morning, the universities, the students and the faculty all self-organize to have thousands of conversations, hundreds to thousands of conversations all throughout the university, roughly organized by department. So the physics department would have conversations about what? About what's most important right now, like the overheating of the planet. And who better than the physicists, including the atmospheric physicists and whatnot, geophysicists, to organize conversations in all their various classrooms around the physics department about these various topics, like how much is the planet overheating? What are our options for stopping the overheating and reversing it, right? For example. And then at the business school, they could say, well, what if we were in the business of saving life on Earth and transforming humanity? And some graduate student in marketing could host a conversation about, how do we market solutions to global warming, for example. And then people could cross-pollinate. So people are walking across campus from one conversation to another. Some students in the computer sciences department might volunteer to create kind of a search engine for the whole thing, and a wiki, and a way so that there's suddenly a map and you can find every conversation. And other people, maybe again in the marketing department, might be figuring out how to go from meeting to meeting and post summaries online of what people are talking about. Again, computer science people might get everyone all wired up so that they can broadcast and record and
Jamin, when you're ready, can I raise my hand on this?
of course, go.
Well, so this is like I want to invoke Mark on the recording and put that out there as well. But this is the the universe. Like again, I'm going to speak from the Canadian perspective, I guess. So I'll just speak from where I am. But from my experience, and I went to Western as well. I was involved with Wilfrid Laurier and University of Waterloo. My alma mater, as I said, is Lakehead. So this is all just public record. It doesn't matter to me. But and I've known people at UBC and obviously Mark at Alberta and so on and so forth. There's a couple things, and okay, I won't get too deep on that, but let's just say that Mark is right in terms of if the philosophy department isn't leading the university, then where are we, right? Yeah, you got me. Just take it from there.
Yeah, and so imagine the conversations that could be happening in the philosophy department. They might organize one conversation about a new myth, a new story for humanity. Another one for how does the philosophy department ongoingly lead? So leadership of philosophy. I mean, literally any conversation you can imagine. It starts by them just posting it on the outside of the door of the room. This is what we're talking about. And then sending a quick text or email or whatever to the folks who are creating the search engine. And voila, there you have the index of all the conversations, where they are, what they're talking about. And those that are broadcasting and recording, you click on a link from the search engine of conversations. Remember, this gets back to what I was talking about the Google of conversations. And then imagine that this just spreads like wildfire. And a whole bunch of universities start doing this all in the same week. And then corporations say, hey, this is so important. We're going to, let's pause business as usual. Like I used to work for Microsoft. There's thousands of rooms and offices all over Microsoft. And imagine they start jumping in and having these conversations. And we used to have hackathon, like all night hackathons that we'd do like on a Thursday night. And it would be a big blast. And we'd start, and coders would be hacking up cool stuff. And then all the tools then start emerging for facilitating this. And then it just becomes like this meme, like, whoa, humanity is coming together. And we're coming together in conversation. And it all started at the University of Waterloo, right? And then it just spread like wildfire, passing the feather.
I was going to say that there's a Microsoft headquarters there in my screen across the street. So you're talking about Microsoft. There she blows. Market and what was crazy is you were talking about universities, and there's University of BC right here, or I guess that's one of the tunnels. It's all underground. But by the way, Microsoft, I saw had a market capitalization of $3 trillion 2 days ago, which was a crazy high. It's never happened. I don't know what that means, Jamin, but it's probably related to
Microsoft robbed me today.
robbed you.
Did you say robbed you?
How did that happen? Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
mean
I
to.
needed to buy a license.
Oh my God.
I
See?
didn't mean to.
But anyway, but your point, Christopher, just pointing your camera around this place in Vancouver where you are, we've got the capacity for this in spades. Somebody just needs to like blow a whistle, right? And say, go, right? I mean, like if the University of Waterloo just sent out this notification for the next week, in fact, you know what? This could be done even during spring break so that no one even has to get interrupted. How beautiful would that be? Instead of everyone going off and drinking and, doing what kids do on spring break. Go ahead, Christopher.
No, I was applauding.
You were applying. Got it. Well, anyway, I mean, I think it should happen like ASAP, like right now. But it kind of reminds me of the moment when like legalization of cannabis was emergent, back in like early 2013. And a bunch of us were doing a lot of cool stuff, but it hadn't quite happened yet. And this really brilliant guy, the most brilliant drug policy expert I know, he said, you know what, Jamin, it's like everyone's standing around with their dicks in their hands, waiting for someone to yell, go, right? That for me is a microcosm for this planetary moment. We know the planet is going down, right? And we're all kind of standing around with something in our hands, waiting for someone to yell, go, right? You got universities, you got corporations, you got high schools, you have
Sir
neighborhoods.
Roland,
Huh? What's that?
Sir Roland, we have a sense of urgency.
Yes, the late great Sir Roland, who used to hang out here quite a bit, and called Jimenez Zamina. He said we've got this tremendous sense of urgency. What the heck is the problem, right? So, oh, you can leave it. You can leave that. That's okay. That's okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. No, you're good. You're good.
I've just really been soaking up that whole idea of that you brought up, Jim, there with the the school. Every department takes a week. What we should build that into every course should have 1 week built in, added on, whatever you have to do it. Where okay, now we're going to focus on what's good for humanity. What we're here's a week. We're going to take a week out of our busy schedule, trying to make ourselves enrich ourselves and be better than the guy next door, and focus on being equal to the guy next door and doing good for all. Just 1 week at every learning institution, in every class, where all you do is have conversation about how could we make the world better. That would be fucking amazing.
Exactly. And now Jimena just put in the word Facebook. We could be doing this on Facebook right now. We could be doing this on Zoom right now.
I was asking for a point of contact, just to be clear about that. But yeah,
I'm sorry.
but yeah, no stress. But yes, also what Jamin's saying.
All right. Well, while you guys are hooking up, we'll carry on the conversation. So
I wanted to say something.
please.
Can you please share why did you quit from Microsoft?
Yeah, the short answer is I had, well, boy, well, part of it was I got really disillusioned with Bill Gates, because I was corporate strategy manager, and one day I went to Bill and I said, "Hey, Bill, I've got an idea for how we can end hunger." He didn't even want to hear it. And I became very disillusioned with that. Also, I was working on a model for how we could leapfrog Google in the search space, particularly for business to business. And that was stifled. And so I became disillusioned is the bottom line. And I didn't just want to work on whatever stupid stuff they were asking me to work on. So I went out and here I am, passing the feather.
Bravo.
I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, young lady.
No, I just said bravo.
Jamin, like I've heard versions of this before, and obviously we've only been well, we won't give secrets away to the people listening or whatever, but so that's how that went down, right? That's what happened with you there, as
Yeah,
much as you want
yeah.
to share. Yeah.
Those are the two main factors, but the common thread was disillusionment.
Hmm. I don't know if you've been in contact with Google Fu, but that was his version of the same story with Google, right?
Oh, did he work for Google?
No, he got fucked over. He can tell you that story himself, whatever, but he got like completely messed over for a very similar story that you just told, where, their team's ideas were appropriated and turned down for, like $100 million or whatever it was. But yeah. Yeah, no, you know the story, obviously. Not his story necessarily, but like a version of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, and this is well, I want to say this too, as we're recording and we're having this conversation here too. If we're having this conversation, then I assume that all these, you know, companies and countries and corporations and whatever we want to call them, are outsourcing the conversation to us, which I'm happy to participate in, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you all, whatever. But that seems to be the most, I don't know, right now, the most accurate or precise kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
well, let me jump in because you are wrong. No, I'm just kidding. Think of it this way. Like I was saying, we could go out and try to recruit, like go to the University of Waterloo and say, hey, please, everybody, please join these great conversations. Or, and this gets back to what I was talking about earlier, acknowledge that countless of these amazing conversations already exist, but they just need to be connected together. We need to create the Google of public conversations for the public good. Maybe that's it. Public conversations for the public good, or for the good of the whole, right? Not just the good of the public, the good of people, but the good of all humanity, the good of all life on Earth. And of course, those two are exactly the same, because if we destroy life on Earth, how can there be any good for humanity if life is destroyed, if there's no
We had, just to frame this too for the recording, Jamin, we talked about this earlier. Like, if we don't have the underlying foundation of treating, the earth with respect, right? Then where are we, right? We're not even surviving. Or yeah, you got me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have nice things if you don't take care of them. And you can't have a nice home if you don't take care of your home and do regular maintenance. And when your home is a planet, then you have to think on a planetary scale, and you have to do what's good for the environment. This is also so simple, so common sense, so easy to absorb. How are we in the mess we're in? It continues to baffle me, because this isn't like hard things to think about. Take care of your surroundings, and they'll take care of you.
Yeah, that's very clear, Marco. So let's stay focused on what we need to do. We need to create the Google of public conversations for the good of the whole of Mother Earth. That's what we need to focus on right now. Right? And because the answer to how to do that is not axiomatic. It does not pop out of what you just said, Marco. It's something we're going to need to co-create right now from nothing. So how do we do that? Right? So I would suggest that we become, number one, the volunteer core for searching out all of these public conversations for the good of the whole. We already know, each of us knows dozens of them, right? So how do we put them all into an index, which forms the basis of this search engine, the Google of public conversations for the good of the whole? Passing the feather.
I'm not sure if Christopher or Michael want to speak on that, but Michael, you want to go ahead? Again, no pressure, right? I saw you on mic.
And in fact, this is what we were talking about late in the block party, late last Friday. Michael, Marco, and I, and Jack Strasberg, and others were jamming on this very topic. And it boiled down to the first step is build a database of public conversations for the good of the whole that we can easily find, right? And then reach out to all those conversations and say, hey, you know, we're building this database, this search engine, and you're in it. And you're therefore very important. So far, we're up to 200, say, you know, public conversations for the good of the whole. And we created both a search engine for them, a calendar for these conversations, and some sort of a map, right, that you can kind of browse through to find them. We make them accessible. Remember how I was talking about in the hypothetical example of a university that takes a whole week and just dedicates itself to that, right? You know, and I speculated that from the computer science department, some students would figure out a way to, you know, create this search engine of that. Well, let's us be those, you know, computer science kids that do that. Who else? Let's us do it, right? And maybe we start with something so simple that's just a list of the public conversations for the good of the whole that we can find. And we just ask everyone, anytime you have a conversation, you find another conversation, you know, upload it to come in, upload it to the wiki. Hi, how are you? I'm just having a meeting here, but I'm going to mute out of it. All right, everything's good here, so I'll just carry on, right?
Looks like we lost Mike.
Yeah, no, but he'll be back. He'll be back. Sometimes he just like drops off, and then he'll be back. So you know, perhaps that should be our focus on tomorrow's block party. Is how do we put together this list of public
I thought
conversations?
the block party was today.
No, it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
I know, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, you know, another thing, you know, this has been attempted in some form quite a bit. You know, other networks comes to mind again. There's a database of a lot of conversations that have happened and some that are continuing.
Well, the other networks, it's not just a database of conversations, it's a database of organizations, groups, people, et cetera, most of whom are in conversations, but the links to those conversations are not necessarily on the webpage, othernetworks.org. Now, let's get in conversation with Stan and figure out, hey Stan, you know, how do we find those conversations that those myriad other networks are involved in? How do we do that?
Yeah, kind of the model they do for Humanity Rising. They record it, and then they do the after chat, and that's all on there to view. We need that for all the conversations, not just Humanity Rising.
Stan for president.
I'm sorry.
Yay, Stan. I love Stan. He's like a guru of Facebook.
Yeah, so let's get Stan in on the conversation.
That guy should be receiving royalties for all he did.
Yeah, so again, the action item, if we're going to focus on what we need to do, I would say the action item is to get Stan into the conversation. So if somebody wants to volunteer to do that, then, you know, that would be productive.
To invite him to the conversation
Yeah, to invite him to the block party and invite
right
him.
now.
Well, both right now. I mean, he's probably asleep right now because it's.
Well, he's
Yeah.
not
Oh,
sleeping.
do you need anything from me?
No, we'll just get
He might be sleeping.
Nah, he's not sleeping.
No?
It's too early for him to sleep.
Let's invite him.
That's what I'm doing.
La passione.
Yeah, he would be perfect for this conversation. How do we find all the conversations that are happening and also express to him our paradigm, which is that the conversations are out there. We just need to create a common database of them so that people can find them, right? And then we promote this whole new paradigm of humanity coming together as a universe of conversations for the good of the whole. Public conversations for the good of the whole.
Public conversations for the good of the whole.
Isn't that
I was
very
thinking-
long?
Sorry, you go ahead.
All right, Stan will be here in a couple minutes. He's going to wrap up what he's doing and he'll be here.
Woohoo!
You see,
Wow.
look, that's a miracle.
The
That's amazing.
power Marco has.
The power-
Nobody has the power, Marco.
It's all in his beard.
Yeah.
Sort of imagine. I mean, this might be smaller scale than what you're talking about, Jamie, but kind of like a Wikipedia, like thing where people just look at it, sort of like Wikipedia, where it's, you know, tended to by the commons and it's not nonprofit.
Stan has that too. He's got Wikidelphia. It's a wiki page for Philadelphia, where all kinds of things going on, anything to do with Philadelphia, and you know, anything you want to know. He pays somebody to maintain that and update it and add things. So yeah, we've got all the makings here. We just got to bring it together.
Wiki.
Thanks, guys. This is the best I felt in weeks. There's hope.
Hope.
Indeed, there is hope.
Jamie is really good for that, eh? Like your shot of hope.
Yeah.
Fix me up, Jamie. I need a shot of hope. Especially after talking to Jimena, she's like, "It's all over. We need Holocaust and catastrophes in order." I'm worried she's right because we have a tendency.
Well, according to the Koji, we have until June to get our shit together.
June.
According to the Hopi prophecy,
No, the Kogi.
what is the Kogi?
They're the only remaining pre-Columbian civilization that has continued to
Okay.
exist.
The Hopi prophecy said that we needed to change our mission. Well, no, our mission. Whatever we were doing that wasn't our mission in 2016. Otherwise, life was going to like kind of show us the way, but in a very rough way. So if everybody is aligned to their mission right now, we are on the other side. And everybody needs to know how to heal. It's not a warning. It's an advice. No, I swear. But people is still zombieing over and over.
I feel like this is a knowledge, part of it's a knowledge issue or awareness factor, and perhaps something like what we're talking about designing here is the inoculation of that. It's like it's your shot, your vaccine against being
Another vaccine.
I guess I shouldn't use the word vaccine.
No, give me a break.
Immunization against being a zombie. Because people fundamentally, I feel like they do care. Like everybody has family, or everybody has connection, needs connection. So we're just caught up. We've been sold a bill of goods that our attention to what we think is important, that's all there is. And we're not really allowed to expect more,
Mm-hmm.
I think behind what we're talking about is the hope that we can actually do something, is the hope that we can have meaningful community. That's not something I feel a lot of people believe in, at least where I'm at in society. And so I think there's goodies behind what you're proposing, Jamin, psychologically, that if we can like highlight those goodies too, that makes it even more, like people are in this, it's not just save the world, it's to like revolutionize. People want to change their life too, upgrade. Like, look at us. You guys are radical interconnectivity community. That's what we're driven towards. And saving the planet. Like, what could be a more meaningful cause, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people are missing that. We're meaning-driven beings, and we're starving for meaning because we've been deprived our basic nutrients, and a lot of that for humans comes through.
Dan is here.
All right, Stan is here. So let's respect that it's late for Stan, and let's just jump right in. Stan, great to see you. We are recording. We can pause anytime, just do this or request a pause. But what we're recording is really important stuff. And we've hit upon some key realizations, and one of those is that we need you here in this conversation. So may I bring you up to speed? May we bring you up to speed in a few minutes, and then
Well, I mean, Marco's obviously not ready to do that. He looks like he's asleep.
No,
Yeah,
he's
I'm
very much
awake.
awake. He's just chilling.
Oh, okay.
Or
And hi,
Dan,
Amina.
great to
I
see
haven't
you.
seen you in a long time.
Great to
Nice
see you,
to see
Stan.
you.
You are
Yes.
so cherished and loved,
Okay, and I've met Michael and Christopher, but briefly. And
Thank you for coming.
well, Marco invited me. I can't turn him down. So he called me and told me to come. So here I am.
You're a
Yes.
sweetheart.
beautiful,
Thank you.
Stan. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Okay. So you were going to give me a brief overview. What are you doing?
Yeah. So the vision remains the same, which is the world in conversation about saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth as a network of conversations, right? And there's kind of, we've distinguished two ways that we can go. One is to go around trying to recruit people into these conversations, or to recruit them to form their own conversations. Another way is to realize that countless amazing conversations already exist, and that what there is to do is to create a database of these conversations. And on top of that database, we could then have a calendar of these conversations, a search engine to help people find these conversations, a wiki organized by category and subcategory, or topic and subtopic of these conversations. But the central core is this database. And then once we have that, then of course we can reach out to all the conversations in the database and say, hey, you're in this database. You're now part of this greater whole. And with that, let that be sufficient introduction, because I know you've been working on this dream your whole life, as we all have in our own ways. So I'm going to pass the feather back to you, Stan, and ask you, what is the closest, and we are recording and transcribing, et cetera, et cetera. So what is the closest thing to this database that you know of in existence, and how do we make it more complete? How do we build the database, et cetera? Passing the feather.
Okay, well, I actually have an idea about a database of sorts, and it's got about 5,000 pages in it, and it's categorized in well more than 5,000 categories. And I can show you a overview on one screen of the kinds of things that it deals with. Would you like to see that?
Absolutely. Here, let me make you co-host so you can
All
do
right.
that.
And I'll go set up my let's see, I have to set up. All right, I think I'm ready to share. You guys ready to receive?
We are ready to receive. Absolutely.
Okay.
Go for it.
So I'll share, and we'll see if we're going to need that. I don't know. And so what I'm about to show you is a table of contents of sorts, and here it is. I call this special collections, because what it is I have, like I said, thousands of categories in my system, and it's a little bit awkward to try to find your way through all those categories. So how do we summarize them in some way? And so this is my attempt to summarize certain kinds of categories. And breakout rooms, okay. I guess the easiest one is to pick a large category that has 22 subcategories. It's called the issue of business, and I can explain the prefixes. The word issue has special meaning in this database, but I don't think it's important to deal with that right away. So we'll look at the issue business and see what subcategories it has. And one of the subcategories is a term about business. And about, again, like issue, has a specific meaning in the way that I organize this stuff. And does is it's even easier to understand. What does something do? If something does business incubation, it's pretty clear what it is. Does business services, does business software, does business support. It is a business. That's easy to understand. Is a business association, is a business directory. So in here we are looking at the top category of business. And we have all these subcategories. Some things are about business, and some things are it does business, and other things it is a business, and other things are issues around business. So the issue of best practices, issue of the business cycle, the issue of business models, and so on and so forth. So if any of these business categories strike a chord for anybody, I'll be happy to open it up further.
So,
Now,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah. So this is fascinating in terms of I'd say an ontological taxonomy of topics.
Exactly. Yes.
And now So I'm sold on that. What we're looking at is specifically the conversation. I want to welcome Mike back. Mike just rejoined. I've been raving about you too.
I was Jamin, if I may, does business incubation, could you expand on that, Stanley?
Yeah, sure. Let's go back to where was I?
Issue business. Click on issue business.
Ah, there we go. Yes. Okay. So by pulling the carrot down, I see the subcategories. I'm not seeing the 56 pages that are under issue business because I didn't open it that way. I can open it in by clicking on the text here, and that will show us all those the subcategories first, which we've already seen those, and then we also have the pages that are tucked away under issue business. And so each of these is associated with the concept of business. It doesn't necessarily be a business, but it could be.
Stanley, I apologize for interrupting. And hopefully we'll get to know each other. I already feel the vibe, as Victor would say. But does business incubation, like that specific one thing, was what I was asking about. I
Okay.
understand what you're explaining that as well, but I wanted to hear you wax esoteric for a second on that.
Okay. So let's
Does
go
business
back.
incubation?
Does business incubation. So I only have
Yes.
one page for that.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see who that is. It's the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives. So this is
what did that mean? Sorry, I'll shut up now.
I'll
And
go
again,
for
shut up madness is anytime you want to shut me up is just shut up Michael or shut up madness.
I'm not going to shut you up. I'm going to try to answer your questions. So this organization is a association of worker cooperatives. And if I look at its page, we'll see what other categories it falls in. So the Federation of Worker Cooperatives falls into it has a factor of being about business startup, because you can learn about means you can learn about it. About cooperation, you can learn about cooperation. About co-working, you can learn about co-working. It does business incubation. That's what got us here. And business incubation means they help people start businesses. So that should be relatively clear.
No, I'm following right along. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Stanley. Keep going, please.
Yeah. And so it does another component of business incubation. It does business capacity building. It does consulting work. It does customized trainings. It does strategic planning. And I have to close my little window over here. It does training. It is an advocacy organization, because not only is it helping the individual members, it's also trying to make the concept of worker cooperatives more understandable to the rest of the world. So it's doing advocacy work. And what is it? Oh, it's a business association. That's what it is. That's why we have the is category. Okay. It is a business process consultant. It is a cooperative. It is a learning network. It is a network, of course. If it's a learning network, it's going to be a network. Its issues, then we go back to the components of it. One of its issues is cooperatives. Another issue is democracy. Its issue is global, and its issue is peer-to-peer. And peer-to-peer is a special kind of relationship that an organization can foster, relationships among its members. And
if I may, Stanley, can you
yes.
expand on the peer-to-peer aspect of that? Because that's very important.
Okay, sure it is. So the issue peer-to-peer allows to the understanding that people can work together. And there's a lot of different ways for that to happen. One of the organizations that specializes in peer-to-peer thought is called the Peer-to-Peer Foundation, P2P. And they have a website, which is a wiki in itself, which is fairly extensive. And the info section of each page has more detail about what this is. We try to have in other networks is my design of a directory based upon my inspiration that I received from the Whole Earth catalog. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's not it's not around any
The
longer.
Whole Earth catalog. I'll write it down.
Huh?
I'll write it down. Whole
Okay.
Earth catalog is what you said?
Yeah, the Whole Earth catalog was a publication in the late 60s, early 70s. And it had several issues, several versions of it that came out. And it's one of the more famous offshoots of Buckminster Fuller's thinking. Are you familiar with Fuller?
Yes, yeah, understood. Still following the bouncing ball.
Yes.
Don't worry, Stanley.
Okay, that's
Thank
good.
you. Yeah.
Well, so people that were excited by Buckminster Fuller and his various kinds of ideas thought of this catalog of resources, and it was more of a directory than a catalog, or a publication that highlighted different businesses and different programs and different services and different tools. And I think one of the one of the ways they talk about the Whole Earth catalog is access to tools. And that's what I'm trying to emulate here with other networks, because I was inspired by the Whole Earth catalog and trying to see how we can make it possible for those of us who want to better the world, better ourselves, can find resources to do those things with.
Stanley, if I may, I get to be the brash young lad, I suppose, whatever. But what was your first moment that turned you on to all this stuff?
Okay, 1969, in the attic of my house with my friends. We were up in the attic because that's where we kept the stash. And so the police couldn't find it too easily. And
A stash of this could be books or it could be illicit, whatever.
stash of
Yeah.
illicit materials.
Understood.
Yeah, so we were up there smoking pot, and I happened to be tripping on acid. And
Okay, but what's the moment? Yeah, lead us up to this because this is please
yeah,
and thank you.
so
Sorry, I'll
there's
shut up.
half a dozen of us sitting on the wooden floor of an attic that you had to climb a little kind of ladder to get up through a hatch into the attic. And we had some form of lighting up there. I can't remember what we did for that purpose, but we were hanging out. This was a long afternoon or a long evening of people enjoying each other and having marijuana. And I was, like I said, I was stripping on acid, LSD. And one of my friends happened to ask me if I'd ever heard of the Whole Earth catalog. And you see this guy with the wheels turning in his head? That's kind of what happened to me at that moment. Whole Earth catalog. Whoa. And so what is a Whole Earth catalog? And couldn't we have a Whole Earth catalog of people? Because at that stage, 1969, the only way to find anything was the yellow pages. You can find businesses that way. You can find your plumbers and electricians and people to move your furniture. but you couldn't
For
find
for
people's
posterity,
interests.
for the recording, Stanley, for everyone who's listening to this, as you are coming to this new, the yellow pages were a book that people could search through to actually like find phone numbers for businesses. But
That's right. Exactly.
sorry, Stanley, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. So that was the quality of indexing for the world at that point. And I heard the words whole earth catalog, and it set me off for the rest of my life. I can say with a certain level of confidence that we are sitting here still in my acid trip from 1969, because this is what I've been inspired to do for the rest of my life, is to
Well,
create
it is an
systems.
honor and a privilege. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, continue, Stanley.
Yeah. So I look at myself as an inventor, and I create situations and tools for people to interact with each other and help each other. And I have developed a philosophy around helpfulness, and my little um, what motto. My motto is helpfulness brings people into focus.
I like
So
that very much.
thank
Jamin,
you.
you've raised your hand.
I don't see Jamin because I'm looking at this
No,
page.
it's all good. I've got you, Stanley. But Jamin, go ahead, please, and I'll be back on camera shortly.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Um,
oh, go ahead, Stanley.
all right. Well, I mean, I can come back to Zoom. Where am I? I'm not
No, you're
seeing.
fine. Jamin raised his hand like he wanted to ask a question, Stanley. That's what I was saying.
Oh, okay. Well, let me stop sharing because let's talk for a bit. The extension of uh, helpfulness bringing people into focus is that I'm predicting, and I've been doing this now for 50 years or more, that ultimately, when we get through this pandemic and the craziness of warfare and all this stuff that's going on now, we're going to be in a new age. And I've been waiting for the new age since we heard the Aquarian song, it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius and boop, 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 boop. And but I don't call it the dawning of the age of Aquarius. That's very nice, but I call it the dawning of the age of helpfulness, where people learn to help each other around the world and at all different levels. And Hamida, go ahead. You want to say something? No. Okay.
I'm clapping.
I'm just gonna
Mute
jump in.
clapping.
Oh, you're
Sign.
clapping. Okay.
I'm just gonna jump in real quick and say, we've been in the dawning of the age of Aquarius until this last harmonic convergence. We are now in the age of Aquarius.
Okay. Well, that's good.
And hopefully in that age of helpfulness.
Yeah, I don't
And
think we've quite gotten where I would like that to be, but
right.
at least we're talking about it.
But and we're not, and talking is the beginning, and conversation is what this is about,
Mhm.
and that's why I wanted you to come in, Stan, because I like, other networks is amazing, and the way you do add Humanity Rising in there. You've got the recording of the Humanity Rising, you've got the recording of the after chat, you've got the all that. So that's what we need for all the conversations that are going on in the world, all these meaningful conversations, and those that are willing and to participate, do the recordings and have them end up on something like other networks. Maybe other networks is exactly, we need to bring more people in and help you expand that vision, to
Mhm.
bring the conversations together so they're searchable, and you can tell when the next conversation is going to happen that's open to the public or not, or
Mhm.
where you have to apply, and then you can be part of the conversation. But
Mhm.
just so these conversations are all listed somewhere where those that want can find them, and they
Mhm.
can find each other and interact.
Right. And you know Vincent, right?
Yes.
Vincent Arena. So I'm looking to Vincent as a key component of making that kind of stuff work. because when I talk to Vincent, the top of my head comes off, Boing! Because oh my God, he's so brilliant. And we need other networks is very nice, but it can only deal with so many people and so many languages and so many continents, so many concepts. So I think we need maybe 10,000 resources like other networks. The trick is to do what you're talking about and having be searchable somehow so that you can find stuff across the boundaries, because um, each network that contains a directory of whatever it is it's working on needs to be able to be found by people who are not on that particular directory. And that's a big crossover project, and will be what makes this all work internationally. And are
If
you
I may, Stanley, do you have
yes?
any like suggestions on that? I'm just curious. Like again,
Well,
my fireworks are going off in my brain, but yeah.
okay. Other networks is my suggestion. Okay, it's an example of the kind of resource that I think we need thousands of. And once we've gotten, I mean, thank you guys for inviting me to this conversation. I mean, you've and Jamin knows this when he offered to marry me. So back the first time we met, Jamin says, "Okay, we're going to be married," and here we are, um, having a vacation from being not married. And
Brilliant.
back into the thick of things. Yeah. So not sure what to say next.
Well, if I can jump in briefly, yeah,
Yeah.
and when I first met Stan, two things became clear. One, Stan is who I want to be when I grow up, number one. Number two, let's get married, intellectually, spiritually, etc. I'm actually not gay, for those of you who don't know that. But anyway, all
That's
that
not bad.
aside. So now, back to the question. I think Marco articulated it well, but we need a whole Earth catalog of conversations,
Mhm.
right? Because there are, and I would say, with particular emphasis on recurring conversations, because a recurring conversation can be tracked, it can be indexed, it can be captured, and but really we need a whole Earth catalog of all conversations, including one-off conversations, etc. And anyone who's in any one of these conversations, particularly public conversations that are
Mhm.
joinable, right? Like the after chat, the chat people, etc. And Mike, I think I told you, Stan is the creator of the after chat, the chat people, etc.
I gathered that. Yeah, keep going, Damon. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
yeah. So Stan is kind of our Moses here, and he needs us as much as we need him. We all need each other, and so the people who are in these what I characterize as public conversations for the good of the whole, right? That's what I'm talking about. Anyone who's in a public conversation for the good of the whole gets it, right? And there is but one other thing that we need for all these people who are in these public conversations for the good of the whole to get, and that is that number one, they're not alone. And number two, all of these public conversations for the good of the whole need to come together to form a whole of their own. And that would be the Whole Earth Catalog of Public Conversations for the Good of the Whole. And with that, I pass the feather.
Okay. I have discovered a useful term for making conversations happen. I call that term the magnet. A magnet for a conversation is something that draws people to that conversation or to that magnetic item or magnetic person or magnetic community that draws people to ask questions, come together. Is the dog asking questions? No. um, so, and I
No,
hit
it's like a mascot. That's what you're doing.
a mascot. Yes, they think a mascot is a good conversation starter.
The
And,
mascot of the conversation, yeah.
Yeah, and can be a magnet for conversations around whatever the people think that the mascot is about or for. My current favorite conversation magnet, and people argue with me about this, but I think I'm right. The most urgent conversation magnet that we need in our society now is the political campaign. And I'll hold off trying to talk over that because I want it to sink in. What is a political campaign? Right now, it's not a magnet for conversation. It's just the opposite. A political campaign is a bunch of people who are trying to get somebody elected, and all they can do is shout. And the more shouting that they do, the more yelling that they do, the more running around banging on doors and trying to tell people stuff, they're not listening to anybody. And that's the big problem with politics in our world today. People who are offering to help organize society don't realize that they need to listen to the society that they want to help. And without listening, they're not going to be able to generate the kind of affection that they want their people to have for them. So, which is what what potentially could make a political campaign a magnet for conversation is if the people and the candidate allow people to feel comfortable about writing to them or talking to them or being with them in some way, allow the magnetic property of a political campaign that draws people's interest because they think that they're talking to somebody who's going to be powerful, who's going to be able to affect the way the world is and be able to affect the political center, the person running for office. And if I want something to be changed, I want to be able to explain that to whoever is going to be to have the power, the resources, the money, the political process to make those changes. And barring the possibility of being able to talk to campaigns or talk to candidates, I'm powerless. And so the idea of having political campaigns be magnets for conversation is that will give people some level of confidence that they might actually be able to affect the outcome of the political process, which is society's efforts in various ways. We'll stop there.
Do you think it's insurmountable, Stan?
No,
I figured not. I was just going to ask the
no,
question,
no,
but
no.
yeah.
What's difficult right now is that the people who believe that they're trying to run for office and the people who try to help them run for office have a book, a list of the methods that you use for this process. And anything that doesn't fit into that book or list or catalog of methodologies for running campaigns, anything outside of that It's crazy.
Right.
Okay,
You're
so
bringing images of like Waterboy or something to me. I don't know if you
okay.
remember that, where I forget the actor's name, but he has to get over his fear of like writing plays or whatever.
Okay, I don't know that.
No, it's okay. Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
keep going.
So most people working on political campaigns have this erroneous belief that money is what makes a candidate win an election. And it is not money that wins elections. What wins elections is votes. As long as as long as the election is run the way it's supposed to be. And that's not something that the political universe understands. They don't understand the importance of the votes and the voters. They think that what they need in order to win an election is money. And they don't need money. They don't need money at all if they have enough voters. And how do you get voters? You make people fall in love with you. It's as simple as that. How can a candidate for office make people fall in love with them enough to make sure that they're going to vote for that person? And then money becomes irrelevant in that situation. Go
Bernie
ahead,
Sanders.
Jamin. Hmm?
Oh, sorry, Christopher, go ahead. But then Jamin's got his hand raised. But Christopher, go ahead. Ask your question.
I just exclaimed Bernie Sanders, whose average donation was $26 or less. They
Yes.
just they love with the idea. To your point, Stanley.
Yes. Oh, Bernie was stolen. The election was stolen from Bernie by the powers that run the party. And it's a sad situation because he was the leading candidate in the hearts of more people and wasn't permitted to follow through on that position. So, Jamin, you had something to ask or say?
Yeah, so I just want to offer a different sort of telos than, transforming politics through representative democracy. What if a different telos is, what if we did away with, what if we Buckminster Fuller style came up with a new paradigm that made that paradigm of representative democracy and all the politics associated with it obsolete? And what if that new paradigm was simply this universe of conversations and people coming together as part of this universe of conversations, cross-pollinating conversations, watching each other's conversations, listening to each other's conversations, jumping into each other's conversations, transforming them, et cetera, thus forming a planetary collective superintelligence that would become so intelligent that in and of itself, it would transform and revolutionize representative democracy, et cetera, as well as economy, as well as co-creating a new story for humanity.
Yes, you're exactly right. What you're talking about is the goal of figuring out how to get conversations started. The goal is to have what you're talking about, an infinite range of interactive thinking, correspondence, conversation. That's the goal. And the question is, how do you start that process?
Okay, and
So
may I jump in and answer that question?
Yes, please. Then.
Okay. So we have hit upon the idea that how to start that process is by first creating a database of those public conversations for the good of the whole that already exist. There's got to be tens of thousands of them. How do we create a database of those? That database thus creating this critical mass nucleus that can then grow and grow and grow by popularity. In other words, people will say, wow, look, hey, did you hear about this? I'm calling it the Google of conversations. We could also call it the Whole Earth Catalog of conversations. But how do we create this index, this database of public conversations for the good of the whole, so that people can start talking about it? It can spread as a meme, so that, people who are already in one or more of those conversations, like us, we get it, right? And what we need for all such people across all such conversations to get is that, number one, there are tens of thousands of such conversations. And number two, we all need to come together. Well, the baseline of coming together is that we are put together in a database, not necessarily with our own knowledge or even consent. The consent is by default, given that these conversations are public. If they're public, they shouldn't object to being in a public database, search engine, calendar, index, etc., such as the one that you showed with that sort of ontological taxonomy. So why don't we, all of us, take on this? So if you agree with me, if everyone here agrees with me that this is the next logical step in the evolution of this thing that started with your acid trip in 1969, why don't we all agree to take the next logical step, which is to put together this database of conversations, and then we can talk about what do we do next. Christopher's applauding. Excellent. Thank you, Christopher. So, for example, if we put together this database of public,
Can you please explain?
Oh, hi, good evening.
Like what
Here,
kind of
I'll be right back.
list you are talking about? Like, give us some hints.
Who are you asking?
I believe she's asking you, Stanley, but you want to say that again, sorry?
I wanted to
Or were
know.
you, Jamin?
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
we
we
can
can hear you, but we're
you.
not sure what you're asking.
I wanted to know, like you're asking for a list of conversations, right, Jamin?
A database,
Like
a database of conversations that already exist.
database. What would that database consist on?
Well, in practical terms, it could start out as simple as a Google spreadsheet, right? That has the name of the conversation, the date and time and frequency, right? A link to join the conversation, just like the Zoom link to join the block party, this meeting, etc. And other data and metadata associated with the conversation, so that people can scan that visually or look at a calendar that can be built based on that data, or it can be searched with the search engine, or can be indexed according to like the ontological index that Stan has generously put together on othernetworks.org, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the kernel, the basis, the foundation for all those things would be this database. Back to you, Jimena.
No, I was thinking like we already had something like that going on 2 years ago with the effort that Sol put in, and Roland and many people that collaborated with us. Kiko Lab, remember? The St. Vincent, who has this great idea about how to join people in a more, we could say, updated way, because everybody here, we are as a different generation, and we have a lot of things to bring to the table with our knowledge, with the experience that we have, according to each of our generations. And Vincent is super young, and he's so updated with all the thing of artificial intelligence, and like very updated to all this IT and big data and whatever. And he's very capable of understanding that and kind of sharing that with us. And the experience that Stan has, like, man, I so admire you. This is like 100,000 times I've said that, but I
Yeah,
think
we-
you
All
are
right, well,
such a guru. You are a
the
person
next
that,
level that Jamin is talking about
yeah.
is somewhat covered um, in the ontological methodology that I have created, and I'll show you.
Ontological now.
Hmm?
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Well, yeah. So, okay, back
You
to
need to
sharing.
accept compliments, man.
Okay.
Because you are such a brilliant person. The world
Well,
deserves to meet
I
you
be
for this.
brilliant is not the right word. Inspired, yes. Brilliant, maybe.
Well, inspired by Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, then.
Yes, yes, yes. I actually
Good
have
for you.
a friend who is named Lucy from that very song. And her brother is Hammer. What's his
MC
Alex?
Ham.
Max,
No.
Maxwell.
Maxwell. Yes. So Max is her brother, and Lucy is the sister. And
Great.
yes.
And
So
Pot is the
what I
aunt.
would say to do next is to go through lists of organizations that we know of or don't or have are finding on the internet and stamp them with a category. A category would be it does conversation.
There we go.
And then you can have the issue for the conversation. Or it could be this thing that we're talking about. Now I haven't explained what I call the target for a page on other networks. So the target could be a conversation. It could be an issue conversation. It could be about a conversation. It could be it does conversation. So I'm going to click on does conversation and we'll see we have 6 members of this category already in other networks. And oh, what's this? The Conversation CC. They do conversations. And there's a lovely weekly meeting of democracy types that call themselves Fixed Democracy First. And they, every Wednesday, I believe, they have a meeting held in Washington State and run by some creative people there to talk about how does democracy work or could work and how can we fix it. Now, I list a couple of other things, some people that do conversation. Some guy named Jamin Shively does conversation, and Joseph Pinsakota and Melanie Beamer. I'm not sure. Oh yes, I think I know where. And the Multiversity Project, which I'm sad to say it's not running any longer. This was a podcast, a, 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 a regular scheduled list of conversations that the Multiversity Project did, and run by some very beautiful people. And the one lady that runs it is now in Mexico, oddly enough. And we'll get back to that.
What's her name?
Let's go back to
Claudia?
it's not Melanie, that's the other, it's another lady. Awakening Collective Consciousness. So this Melanie Beamer does this stuff here. I'm going to find the leader or one of the people from the Multiversity Project. And where is that? One of these people that, Ariel Friedman. And she now has a Substack. And I don't know if I have a picture of Ariel. No. But Ariel is a talented interviewer and has been the leader of some of the Multiversity Project's episodes. Let's see if I can find. Oh, and she and she was, and I don't know if this still exists. She was a member of this crypto hippie drum circle, which I thought was quite a beautiful sounding kind of organization. Um, but Ariel is one of these people that I how do I put this? I'm not in love with her. I'm fascinated by her and her ability to interact with guests on her podcast as a oh, there she is. Okay, Ariel. Um, and she has something called Analog Futures. So that's the name of her um what the thing that this is. These are the topics of her storytelling, her thing. Substack, yes. Okay, she has these articles in her Substack. Um, one of my favorite interviews that I've seen her do is back with the multiversity project. Let's see how we get back there. And there we go, multiversity project. And she did an interview with an author who wrote a book called Paying for It. And it's a very difficult subject, but the two of them did a magnificent 3-hour interview on his life as a John. And he also wrote about prostitution that existed in the Bible. So the two of them going at this interview has made me think that Ariel is a.
So as we've been talking about Chester, you've written a book called Paying for It about your experiences as a John.
You know, for several years I saw a variety of women, sex workers. Some I would, if I liked them, I might see them multiple times, and others, if for whatever reason I didn't get along with that well, or I didn't find that attractive, then, you know, I would only see them once. And then in 2003, I met a sex worker, you know, that liked her a lot. It's now 17 years later, I'm still paying her for sex.
He's still paying this woman for sex. And that's an interesting perspective on a relationship. And so I enjoyed the continuation of this interview between the two of them. Not sure what to do next. I'm going to stop sharing. But there are certain people who have an incredible talent for leading conversations, and I hang out and honor one of these people every day. His name's Jim Garrison, and he's one of the most amazing interviewers that I've ever seen or heard of. And his topic range is unbelievable. And I mean, everything from religion and philosophy and history to economics and a whole bunch of stuff. And so I hang out with Jim Garrison every day. And he's probably the most amazing conversation leader that I know of. That's not a guess. I'm determined. That's the fact. Jim Garrison is the king conversation person. And I always enjoy telling people about one of the things that Jim did when he was after the Soviet Union fell apart. He was actually in Gorbachev's office the day that the Soviet Union was shut down by Gorbachev. And then he became Gorbachev's driver as when Gorbachev wanted to tour the United States and meet people. And he drove Gorbachev to meet Nixon as one of the people he brought together after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So, yes, we want thousands, multiple thousands of conversations. Now, my thought, and this is why I focused on political campaigns as being a magnet for civic dialogue, to be able to get started conversations by having staff of political campaigns trained to lead people in conversation and to manage conversations to the point where they grow and they bloom into further conversations on different topics, and they develop relationships with other conversations. And the image that you have described is the end result, or the goal of starting off with a conversation magnet, something that draws people together because they think they're going to be able to influence the world by being part of a conversation with a political star, as it were. And we could find other conversation magnets. It doesn't have to be a political campaign, but that's the one that makes the most sense to me, as something to try to put together. So I'm trying to find a candidate somewhere who would be willing to engage the public in interactive dialogue, and by having their staff trained to answer questions or take suggestions, and announce to the public that one of the things this campaign is doing is putting out an email address and maybe a phone number and maybe a website, or where they'll accept it will accept commentary or suggestions or questions from the public in order to get conversations started, by allowing people to feel that they have at least some power to offer a suggestion or ask a question and get an answer. And that's the key to the what I call a responsive campaign. Getting an answer gives people hope that this candidate really cares. And it doesn't have to come directly from the candidate. It could come from one of the staff people or the volunteers working for a campaign. So I'll stop there. Yeah, and that's not to say that we can't find additional kinds of conversation magnets, but the willingness for the people running the conversation to interact with whoever's joining the conversation is the important factor. And yeah, I like the idea of having some thing or person or process act as a magnet for conversations, to bring people together. And just opening the idea of let's have a conversation sometimes works, but it's more likely to create a conversation if there's some kind of incentive, some magnet, some topic that people have a burning issue around.
So listening to you, Stan, one thought came to mind, which is, why not reach out to Jim Garrison and say, hey, Jim, you're plugged into countless people and groups and communities who are hosting conversations on an ongoing basis. Would you, Jim Garrison, be willing to work with us, with Stan, with Jamin, with Marco, with all of us, on putting together a database of public conversations? And I was going to add public conversations for the good of the whole, but just by the very virtue of the fact that they're public, and I'm glad that you screen shared that snippet of this John who pays someone for sex.
Mhm.
One might not think of that as a conversation for the good of the whole. But guess what? Any conversation that's public, I would say, is by default for the good of the whole, because it's at a minimum of interest to the people in that conversation, the people listening to that conversation. So it's serving some purpose. And if it's serving some purpose, then it's part of the good of the whole, right? There's no such, for me, there's no such thing as a public conversation that's not for the good of the whole, just the fact that they're talking. And so let's strike the for the good of the whole as a filtering criterion and just say public conversations. Can we create a database of all public conversations, and by so doing, help increase the popularity of public conversations? Because as more and more people find out about this and start at least watching them, you start by listening, right? We're all born into this world as these sticky little babies that start by listening. And then the more we listen, and then we kind of get the idea, like a 5-year-old girl watching the big girls do this big skipping rope thing where several of them are in the middle jumping, and then they finally jump in themselves, right? Anyway, I'll put that on the table and pass the feather.
Well, it's nice to talk to Jim about it, and he will almost certainly say, oh, that's a nice idea, maybe even a great idea. But he can't do it. He can give us permission to do it in his name. And that's probably more important than us talking to him about doing it. Because it's not Jim that can do that. It requires a bunch of people investigating potential conversations and listing them in the directory. The after chat right now has about 1,000 people on the daily email list that I send out. And I try to talk to those who show up for the after chat that we need to be a friendly guide to the people giving talks on Humanity Rising. There's over 1,200 of them, maybe 1,400 or 1,500 of them, who have given talks on Humanity Rising and could be, if it was handled well, be introduced to other people to create a more enticing kind of conversation. There's a fellow named Joe and a lady named see, her name is Rianne Eisler.
Guys, sorry for interrupting. I might need to go. But it was great to spend time with you again. Stan, thank you. Thank you for your wisdom and for sharing everything you are. Bye, friends.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good
Take
night,
care.
Jimena.
Love to your
Great.
mother, Simon.
Oh, thank you, Mom. Jimena's sending you love.
Much love, sweetheart. Take care of yourself.
Mom, that's Jimena. She's sending you love, Mom. Mom, everybody loves you. Mom.
Greetings to Melly.
She nodded. She got the message. Thank you, Jimena.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Sweet dreams.
Got to get back down from downtown back home for work tomorrow. But Stan, it's an honor to have you here, man, and to be able. And this is really exciting. You collaborating with the conversation, sort of something that's been going on for years. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. Thank you.
Well, I've been sort of wishing that all the people who appeared or had anything to do with the public thing that Jamin was starting when I first met him. What were those called? Press conferences.
Oh, the press conference. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was disappointed that there wasn't a ongoing collection of the names and issues that these people brought to the press conference. And I had hoped that Julie and maybe Julie and somebody else were working on building that list, that would be the beginning of your database.
Yeah, yeah. The elephant in the room is there's so many groups that are working on aspects of this, and we just need to come together somehow, somewhere, some way. And that's actually part of the issue right there. In fact, I've made a joke about it. I don't know if you've heard me say this joke, Stan, but it goes like this. The top 100 leaders of these transformational conversations and of bringing humanity together in conversation, the top 100 leaders, including yourself, including Jim Garrison, including John Raymer, et cetera, were all asked one question, which is, what would be the single most powerful thing that we could do to bring humanity together? And all 100 leaders had the same answer. All 100 leaders had the same answer. Do you know what that answer was?
Go ahead.
Come to my place. Everyone should
Right,
come
of
to my
course.
place in
Okay.
conversation, right?
Yes.
And therein lies the conflict, right? And ego is a part of it. Greed is a part of it. Our very humanity is a part of it. So how do we overcome that?
Yeah.
And we
You know
believe,
the answer to how?
huh?
Do you know what the answer to how
No,
is?
what is it?
The answer to how is yes. Oh, I have to turn off this.
Or
silly-
hold it in front of your face.
What?
Hold it right below your face.
Below my
There.
face. Can you read it now?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Peter
answer to
Block,
how
that
is
name is
yes.
familiar.
Well, he's a very well-known community builder type, author and such. And so this is a fun book of his. The answer to how is yes. And so we just have to do it. That's all. You don't worry about how to do it, you just do it. And that's what we're doing here.
And on that note of wisdom, I'm going to take that to dreamland with me.
Okay.
Great
All
to
right.
see you again.
Great to see you, Christopher. Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
We'll
Have
see you
a-
tomorrow on the block party.
Yes, for sure.
Right.
All right. Thanks,
Marco.
Christopher. Have a good night.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now Marco is feeding back to himself.
Yeah, that means he's in deep resonance with what you just
Yes.
about. Yes. Now let me offer an alternate answer.
Mhm.
Yes, or maybe it's probably consistent with yes, which is that the key to overcoming that challenge that I articulated. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, welcome. If you need me for anything, just say so, okay? Otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking away here. And what is your name? Pardon me? Wulakwa. Good to see you. So the answer, or consistent with that answer of yes, and to overcome this challenge that I articulated, which is that the come to my place being the answer, is decentralization. What if, rather than try to center it at a particular place and time, we all simply promoted the same meme, the same myth, in whatever terms we chose to articulate it, which is come together in conversation, and whatever conversation you are having, blast it out, tweet it out, right? With an appropriate hashtag that indicates that it is part of this whole, that it is part of this emergent, decentralized universe of public conversations, right? So, for example, we've come up with the acronym CHIZZY as being one such hashtag of many, 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 right? Of an infinite number, an unbounded number and set. So I'll just put it in there, CHSI, which stands for collective human superintelligence. Superintelligence is usually one word, but you could imagine it in humpback notation so that you get the acronym CHISY. But that's what we call it. You, whoever's listening, call it whatever you want, but get the message out there that we're coming together as a universe of public conversations. Melissa's calling. She's probably just to say goodnight. I'll be right back. Please carry on.
Yeah, my thought again was somewhere between other networks and Trove and Catalyst, working with Vincent, that the magic sauce is there somewhere.
Yep. It's something that has to grow. And so I've planted my seed. I'm waiting for the growth of my seeds. Jamin's planting his seeds, and we're still stuck in these parallel universes. What is this? Another word for it? Siphon? No. Where things are kind of globbed together and not and ignoring everything else. Silos, that's it. Yes. So we have millions of silos of conversations, and we do need this to be converted into a meme, and it would be lovely to have that meme come out as a magnificent movie that just made everybody fall in love with planet Earth.
Yeah, exactly. But you see, I think because of the key concept of decentralization, different groups, different communities are going to name that same meme with different words. And that's fine. That's how it should be, I believe, in order to have decentralization. And I'm praying and waiting and doing the best I can to incite and catalyze the emergence of some sort of a Google of all of these transformational conversations, right? How do we, and so I believe that by all of us embracing the practice of blasting out the coordinates, not only of our conversations that we're hosting and having, but of all conversations that we even hear about or find out about. So in your case, Dan, in addition to posting them to othernetworks.org, what if you also got in the practice of tweeting them out or blasting them out across whatever media? And I use blasting in favor of tweeting because tweeting tends to centralization. If we blast, it just means put it out through whatever channels you wish. What if we all adopted that practice and made that a priority, not the priority, because we each have our own priorities, and again, that's how it should be per the concept of decentralization. But what if all of us agreed to make it a priority to blast out coordinates, again, not only of our own conversations that we're hosting, but of all conversations that we find out about, right? And become aware of. And then as we blast, as more and more people are blasting out, whether it's a giant like Google or whether it's a tiny little startup like Google used to be one day in the past, someone will find a way, or hopefully many someones, again, per the concept of decentralization, many someones will figure out the way or the ways to create indices, databases, search engines of these public conversations. And so in a way, the internet itself is a strong analogy to this emergent universe of conversations that we're hypothesizing, right? And, you know, there's Google, there's Bing, there's Yahoo, there's, you know, ask.com, there's all, you know, lots of different search engines, as there should be, to help people find stuff. There will, you know, but, you know, just as in nature, there will usually be a dominant form, like in this case, Google, and then other myriad other forms. But the underlying thing is the search for conversations, and underlying that are the public conversations themselves. So anyway, I think I've kind of articulated what I have to say, however, you know, clumsily or in my own style. And but you get what I'm saying, passing the feather.
Well, the important factor in any of that is making it last. So you are going to go around the world looking for conversations. If you don't organize them into something that's going to be part of the global Google of conversations, if you don't get it into text or data, it's not going to be worth anything. So we have essentially an enormous clerical project that needs doing. And so it will only happen when we organize enough people that are willing to do some of the clerical work.
That's it. That's it, Stan. You've hit the nail on the head. We need a volunteer core,
Mhm.
but I would posit that it must be a decentralized volunteer core.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's sort of like Wikipedia in a way. Wikipedia developed its data from people being interested in a particular issue, and they wrote about it. And so we need to build up this area of Wikipedia. Essentially, it can become part of Wikipedia. It could become part of other networks. It could be wherever it needs to be. But it's essential that when somebody finds something that belongs in this mindset, that it gets written down.
Yeah. Anyway, Stan, we are we grapple with these topics on a weekly basis on a podcast that we do every Friday from, since you're on the East Coast, it's Eastern time, it's from 3 to 5 Eastern, and it's on the block party, and we often do it in a breakout room, sometimes in the main room. And so if that is a possible time slot for you, either ongoingly or whatever, you know, Friday happens to work out, we would love to have you.
All right. Well, you have a time? Is there a particular time?
Yeah, 3 to 5 Eastern every Friday on the
Okay.
block party, 3 to 5 Eastern. Just
All right,
remember,
because that works.
three by 5 card.
Yes. Okay.
And
Good.
that's your mental,
And that's here.
right here in the same room. Same room as
okay.
always.
All right. So there's a chance that I will be able to drop in, because that time frame is my after the after chat time. And of course, that's the time I use to do my summary for the day, but I can participate in things too. Hopefully, I won't die from all this stuff that no, I mean, I'm being sort of successful at generating people interested in feeding me information, and I can only do so much with it. I need some of those people to be writing things into the database, because if it's not written down, it doesn't exist.
Exactly. And that might well be one of your main contributions to this whole decentralized movement, is that you help us realize that, And
Mhm.
and by your both.
And I offer the space of other networks to write stuff. It doesn't have to be the only place where that information exists, but it could be a starting point. And the more people that add information to any database, as long as it's available to others, um, it's important. And other networks is there, and I'm in the process of expanding other networks to handle more recordings. I'm running out of space. I have over 800 after chat recordings on other networks, and the server people told me you're going to have to buy some more space. So I'm working on that now, so that as I go past a terabyte of conversation recordings, um, it will be able to continue to grow. But that's where I'm at now. Almost a terabyte, 800,000
Gigabytes. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, interesting. I would have thought that um Humanity Rising's, oh no, you're talking about the after chat
I'm
recording.
talking about the after chat. Humanity Rising has their recordings on YouTube, and on Facebook, perhaps, and maybe in a couple of other places.
Okay.
And Georg says that he has built a backup of early episodes, so he may have them on something more durable than YouTube, because YouTube could fall apart at any minute. But my indexing is of the YouTube version of the Humanity Rising episodes. And so I have a searchable listing of all 840 episodes of Humanity Rising on other networks, and a list of all the presenters. You just put somebody's name in there, and you'll pop up and find out what episodes they participated in, and you can go watch those episodes.
Right. Right.
So
Wow.
yes, and who else? Who is this? The crew that's here is
Yeah.
participating at 3 o'clock on Friday.
Yeah, and there are other people. One very notable person is a guy named Victor in his 40s who will absolutely fall in love and completely resonate with what you're talking about. And he's connected to a whole bunch of coders. He's a coder himself as well as a program manager.
Mm-hmm.
And he will love everything about what you're doing and saying. And he's I would say he's kind of a Vincent Arena type,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he's got his own platform, the Vibe Cafe, vibecafe.xyz, which is on the Gather platform, the Gather app, on mobile devices. And it's anyway, he will totally resonate and with some of the stuff that you just said. And so anyway, there's kind of this emergent community, and one of the nodes is the Friday podcast called "The Start Is Near," as a juxtaposition to "The End Is Near,"
Mm-hmm.
because it's the start of
Mm-hmm.
humanity coming together.
Mm-hmm.
And
You know Jack Strasberg?
oh yeah. Jack typically joins us later in the day on Friday. He was with us last Friday, and we had in the evening, and we had a great conversation on the block party.
Yeah, he likes to get up and yell, "They got to get everybody together." Well, what are you doing about it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
Well, I mean, he's given me a dozen or so references and I have a section I have a category in other networks of recommending by, and everybody in the world can have their own recommended by category. And if you have some things to recommend that people should know about, we can create the recommended by Jamin category, and all your favorite things can be there.
yeah.
And let me show you one screen that maybe you can help add things to it. Now, if I'm overloading you, you let me know with stuff.
Okay.
So I'm going to go and look at the category is convener. If I can find it. Here we go. So we'll come back and I'll share this. So I've started this category called is convener. And if I click on that, it gives me a list of conveners. And there's a subcategory under is convener of is master convener. And I only have 9 of them so far. So these are probably people all whom you already know. Do you know June Holly?
No, I don't.
Okay. She is the leader of the network space on Facebook. And who else? You might not know Ian Lewis.
No, I don't.
Ian Lewis is the president of the Cetacean Society.
Oh.
And he has a friend. He does outdoor climbing and things with, who has his name's Charles. And so Ian's a very well connected person, because Charles is the King of England.
Oh, I'll be darned.
And Ian goes hiking with him, or used to. I don't know if they do it anymore. And of course, I love Phil Lane. And I don't know David Lorimer or that well. Why do I have him here? Writer, lecturer, editor, founder of the Character Education Scotland, program director of the Scientific and Medical. Oh, the Scientific and Medical Network is something that people are talking about a lot. And so this guy is the founder of that. And yeah, so this could use more text. I can go and grab some text off of their website. Scientific and Medical Network has been bringing together individuals and so on. And so I can copy this and put it in their page.
Oh, wow. Who accept the existence of a fundamental, unifying, and transcendent reality. Marco, did you hear that? This is a very good kind of way of saying what we've been saying
And
about
where are you at in the writing?
the second half of that paragraph. Who half after the second?
Oh, who accept the existence of a fundamental, unifying, and transcendent reality. Yes. Yep. So I'm going to put this on their page.
Yeah.
And I've had a number of people who've come to the after chat that are part of, or are very, very much happy with being part of this Scientific and Medical Network and going to their meetings.
Wow.
So I'm going to copy that and go back. And go into edit mode and put that here. So that's how easy it is.
Oh, very good.
And so they already have a category called science and spirituality. and consciousness.
Mm.
And consciousness is, of course, a big deal, especially in the last month or so. We've had specific meetings around consciousness and science. Do you know Peter Murray?
No, huh?
Okay, Peter Murray is the effective leader of Ubiquity University now that Jim has effectively moved to Washington, D.C. You know that Jim has moved down to D.C.
Yeah, I know he's working more on extraterrestrial stuff these days.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he's and we've had some very interesting people come and speak about the extraterrestrials. Yesterday was one of them. We had probably the leading historian on the topic of extraterrestrials did a whole week on Humanity Rising. And so he's been following this and writing the history of the movement of people that pay attention to this possibility that these intelligences exist. And now that the government has actually gone ahead and pronounced that they actually do exist, which is a big step forward. And you're familiar with the idea that the government has actively been suppressing information about extraterrestrials and UFOs.
Sure.
Yeah. Why? Why were they actually hiding that from the public?
Well, I would
And
say the obvious answer is that is a threat to their hegemony.
Yep.
Because once the extraterrestrials are acknowledged and invited into the conversation, I presume their level of collective intelligence far exceeds ours, and therefore their level of politics probably far exceeds ours. And if magic carpets were free and ubiquitous, then who would need automobiles? And so that would be a threat to the big three and Tesla and the big five Japanese and the big four German, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Right.
And I believe in a bigger reason than that.
Oh, come on in. Hi. Hey, let. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so go ahead, Stan. What's the bigger reason?
The bigger reason is that those people who gather the most money out of the status of the world are the people that make weapons. And they get $60 billion a year out of the federal government or more. And they need enemies.
Yeah.
And so that's why we've had endless wars for the last 30 or 40 years, because those people make sure that we have enemies. Now they're working on China. They've done a really good job on Russia.
Yeah.
They're working on other
Iran, et cetera.
Right, exactly. Those people, they love enemies because that's what gets them their big bucks.
Right.
And if we had the population thinking that we might end up with peace because we have a new kind of enemy altogether, and we don't have to arm ourselves against the terrestrial enemies.
Yeah.
They don't want that. No. They want to have, well, these extraterrestrials need to be made into enemies too.
Right.
And we need to harvest their technology so that we can fight with them.
Yes.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, where was I? I was talking about conveners, and Phil Lane is a convener.
Yeah.
And Phil Lane has been on Humanity Rising. Yeah, it's almost 24 times.
Wow.
Is master convener.
Yeah.
So this is the level up from convener.
Yeah.
I have 14 conveners in my database now and 9 master conveners. And are you a convener?
I'd like to think of myself as one.
Okay, so let's go to your page and Damon had oh there you are. And we'll go to edit. We'll go to categories. And we'll go to is. Convener. And whoops. That's conversation. What else do you do?
Oh. Um,
And I feel bad about Kiko Lab. That
Yeah.
was that was a lovely group of people.
yeah.
And yeah, I don't do you know what I did for Vincent?
Oh. mm-mm.
Did you ever meet um, 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 um oh geez, Carolina? There was a lady named Carolina who was part of the Global Regeneration Collab,
Oh.
and she um and I think she's backing off from her role there, but um I met her and she turned me on to the collab and she turned me on to a couple of other things. And I maintained a conversation with her until I introduced her to Vincent. And that was the end of my hope of being able to marry her
Oh.
because she sent me a photograph of her and Vincent together.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
Wow.
She's a world trotter. When I met her, she was teaching permaculture in Japan. She's from Portugal, but she was in Japan when I met her teaching permaculture.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Okay,
yes.
so she and Vincent are now a thing.
That's right. Yes. And I'm so proud of myself because it's like I introduced Madame Curie to her husband in terms of my level of importance that I hold these two people.
Yeah.
Her role as a leader of the Regeneration Collab, but I'm not sure what she's doing now. She hasn't gotten back to me to talk to me.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I introduced her to Vincent, and they're still together,
That's
even
beautiful.
though they're separated by thousands of miles.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
So is one of your issues, ideas? I guess so.
Yeah.
What else do you want to have be known for?
Um, Unifying humanity. So does unifying humanity.
All right, did I spell unifying correctly?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
All right, I know how to spell humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. You did it. You did it.
Okay, so that creates an empty page, and it shows empty pages show
Oh.
up in red.
Right.
And so I need to apply these changes, save them, save changes, and go here and categorize this category. This category belongs under the category does.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to put it in different mode to do that. Oh, here we go. And category does is where this category belongs. And now this category is categorized. And it will show up when we go to here. Does is at the beginning. Does conversation, does unify humanity. Oh, yeah, that's what we just built. Okay. And is a convener and is a member of the conversation. We should probably have that, because I don't have, yeah, here's a link to the conversation. And redirect, okay, and noon to midnight Pacific every day. Not doing it every day, right? It stopped.
Yeah.
About saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth. And we have by, you're the inventor of that. And it is a platform, and its issue is conversation, and it serves planet Earth. And its issue is dialogue, which is another way to say conversation, and is member of Kiko Lab, which is transformation player. That's another useful category. I think that's pretty large category. Let me see. I'm going to save this. Transformation player, that's like conveners. And these are organizations that I consider working on transformation, even though there's 195 organizations that I have listed as with the issue transformation. So that's a big deal.
Right.
And regeneration is a subcategory of that, and a big subcategory of transformation. Yeah, and regeneration and farming and all that stuff of caring for the planet is just really so important. And if we had more conversations going on for that, but the Regeneration Collab generally has a dozen conversations every week. Let's see, I have a link to their calendar. Global Regeneration Collab.
So Stan, let me just propose a question for you. And it's really for the universe and for Marco and for everyone here. Which is, it's kind of similar to the question that you posed back in 1969. Which is, how is it possible that the closest thing that we have to a whole earth catalog for people is the yellow pages, right? And
Well, now we have libraries that have a lot. We have Wikipedia. Yeah.
right, but now let me pose a parallel question in 2024. How is it that there is barely how is it that there is barely an index, barely an index, or anything close to an index of conversations out there in the world? You know, I mean, other networks is part of this emergent index. There are other parts of the emergent index here and there.
Mhm.
But I would posit that the answer is similar to the reason why extraterrestrials have been suppressed. Because, you know, there are powers that be that want us to be separate and want us to be enemies. And if there were actually an index that said, hello world, here are all the conversations that are happening, that would be probably the most exciting index imaginable, because then I'd be like, oh wow, who else is talking about rain cloud brightening? Oh wow, who else is talking about collective
Are
human?
you familiar with the Encyclopedia of World Problems and Human Potential?
You've told me about that. Yeah. So
Yes. Well, that's where you'll find the beginnings of those conversations. That's a listing of tens of thousands of organizations doing work on tens of thousands of different topics.
wow.
And they don't necessarily invite the public to their meetings, but some of them do.
You know, I imagine that the ones that do would constitute a sufficient starting point or kernel or critical mass
Mhm.
of these conversations.
Mhm. Yeah, the editor is a friend of mine. No. The founding editor of the encyclopedia is a friend of mine,
Mm.
and I'm trying to figure out how to engage with him. Um, he's rather busy in his intellectual world. When he writes something, I have to go to the dictionary and I have to ask people what the hell is he talking about, and I can't figure it out because I just can't follow the logic.
Yeah.
Um, but in any event, the encyclopedia is a good place to start looking for conversations, because we have these tens of thousands of organizations working on issues, and you can put a term, a word into their encyclopedia and find all these people that are working on varied aspects of that word. Have you ever seen it? It's a mind-boggling piece of work.
Yeah, I think you've screen shared it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I think it's important because there's a synchronicity around that. I had never heard of it, and twice in the same day, people brought it to my attention. Stan, you were one of them, and the other one was uh, Melanie.
Okay.
Like an hour apart. You
I
each,
haven't heard from Melanie in almost 2 years. Now, have you been talking to her?
not recently. The last time she came out with a project, I was going to take part in, follow, and whatever, but there was a fee, and somehow I couldn't manage to get it paid through. It was an Indian banking system, something, and I couldn't get it, and then I kind of lost track of her. But yeah, that was, it was just like probably an hour apart that you each told me about that. I'm like, wow, this is this is like this thing's got to, there's and I always think it's important to go back and check it out and do it, and it's not something I've actually done.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe now's the time again. It's
Yeah.
come back around at the right time.
Well, yeah, there's so many things. That's the problem. I mean, when you called me, I had to stop creating a space in other networks for a particular kind of idea. And I was trying to work on where to put it and how to word it and stuff like that. And then you called, and I had to stop with that because I,
Well,
I had
I,
to
I
come
hope
over
you feel
here.
it was worth the detour because I'm certainly grateful you came, and it'd
Hmm.
be awesome if you can be here between 3 and 5 tomorrow.
3 and 5 tomorrow. Okay. Let me
Or
see if I have anything. I don't think there's anything on my schedule. Tomorrow is Friday, and that's not the right Friday. To find the right Friday in my book. I still use a daytimer. You know what that is?
yeah,
The paper.
I just looked at mine from last year. I used it about the first month, and then
Yeah. Well, I have
lost it.
about 15 years worth of daytimers in my box over there. And the weird part of it is I can't read my own handwriting.
Oh,
So all this scribbling in there is, all this the history of whatever was going on in my world is invisible to me because I can't read it.
well,
So this is 3 o'clock.
Anyway, I was just gonna comment, at the present, I'm in my mom's hospital room. She's improving significantly, which is
Hmm.
part of the reason I'm able to engage in such a long Zoom meeting. We've been going for maybe 3.5 hours or something like that. Anyway, the quest continues. I'm gonna need to get on to sending my weekly email for the block party and then get some sleep and whatnot. Um, but anyway, Stan, would love to have you on.
All right. I put it here in my date book. I'm not sure what's going to happen to me, but there's a good chance I'll be there because, and especially if somebody wants to give me a phone call.
Oh yeah, Marco, I volunteer Marco to do that.
Yeah, well, if he does
I
that, I'll probably be
yeah, you
able
didn't
to jump right on it.
yeah, you didn't hear me say it because I was muted. I was saying it when you were saying it. It's like I can always give you a phone call.
Yeah.
Anyway, God bless you both, Stan and Marco. I'm gonna have to get on with that chore and then get some sleep. I'm sleeping in a cot next to my mom's bed. And I'm gonna need to get some shut eye so I can be fresh for tomorrow. Mark, are you gonna be able to open up?
Yeah,
Okay, and are you cool if we make 7 to 9 a.m. Food healers with BJ hosting?
that's cool.
Okay, great.
She's got enough time to fill it.
Okay, good. Excellent. All right. I
So do you guys know people in Philadelphia that are into vegan stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I'm wishing to have access to a vegan restaurant where I can get them to deliver food to me. Because
I'll ask Charlie. Charlie's in Philly,
okay.
and he's vegan, has been for quite some time, and he knows like all the places.
Yeah, I found one, and it turns out that they don't really have a public kitchen. And the one was actually close to me, and I would go there and take out food from them, but they don't do that actually. They
Mm.
got into whatever it's called, but they don't actually do it. Well, so all right. Have a nice afternoon, guys. And
Stan,
get some.
thank you so much for coming. Can't wait to continue to engage. I think we've
Mhm.
got the critical mass of brain, mind power, heart
Yeah,
power,
well,
willpower.
without writing it down, it doesn't happen. So
I couldn't agree
we
more.
need, if you're
Yeah,
going to talk about building a database, that means you're talking about data entry. It
yep,
has to get in there somehow. If you can
yep.
get AI to put it in there, it doesn't matter. whatever it takes. And I need to index Humanity Rising better with using AIs. And I have a few people that have offered to help with that a little bit. I just want to make sure that my structure, my data structure, the what is it called? The list of categories makes sense. And I have this,
Your ontological taxonomy.
yeah. And what I do is sort of circular. So I'm sure that there are experts in that kind of work that will yell at me, well, you're screwing yourself up. You're going around in circles. Okay, well,
Yeah.
because my thought is a topic can't have too many categories. Because the more words you use for something, the more likely it is somebody will use that word too. See you later.
Really? No. I was applauding, not
Oh,
saying.
okay.
This
All
is
right, well,
silent. This is silent applause. Speaking of
oh,
words.
good. All right.
Anyway.
Well, I'm happy that you're applauding, and I'm leaving.
Love you, Stan. Love you so much.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Take care.
All right, you too. Marco, I'm going to stop recording.